An insane true story. When an Apache warrior knocks, a mother's love changes everything. At 3 a.m., it was 3 a.m. when the night went cold and still. A bone-chilling wind howled through the trees, whispering secrets only the darkness could understand. Suddenly, a loud knock shattered the silence, echoing through the cramped little house on the edge of town, a knock that felt like it could rattle the very walls. What could it be? An echo of the past? The presence of something supernatural? That moment marked the beginning of an unbelievable tale. In a flash, every heart in the house stopped, held captive by a mix of anxiety and intrigue. Maria, a single mother, was jolted from a restless sleep, her heart pounding like a drum. She tossed off her blanket, trembling fingers running through her hair, and squinted into the dark. The knock came again, fierce and demanding, as if the very spirit of the Apache warriors rose to life outside her door. She could feel the cold air creeping in, wrapping around her like a shroud, making her skin tingle. Fear trickled down her spine, an icy reminder that something bigger was at play. Why would anyone be knocking at this hour? She swallowed hard, her throat tight. Suddenly, she remembered the stories her grandmother told her about the ghosts of ancient warriors who wandered the earth in search of justice. Her breath hitched at the thought. Was this knock a warning? Was something looking for her? Maria tiptoed toward the door, dread creeping over her like a shadow. Every creak of the floorboards amplified her rising fear. Tension hung in the air while shadows danced around her tight chest. As she reached the door, memories flooded her mind, her family, their struggles, the forgotten promises that echoed just as loudly as that persistent knock. "Who is there?" she called out, her voice trembling. For a moment, there was silence, a thick curtain woven from dread. Then, a husky voice answered, low and deliberate like gravel falling on stone, "I seek only what is owed." Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. A chill raced through Maria as she processed the stranger's words. What debt could an Apache warrior possibly be demanding from her? Her heart raced, pounding in her ears like a war drum. She felt the walls closing in, as if the very air around her held its breath. Should she open the door? What horrors awaited her on the other side? In that seemingly endless moment, Maria's thoughts blurred into a whirlwind of possibilities. She could hear her son sleeping in the next room, unaware of the creeping tension filling the house. The pull of a mother's instinct clashed with the paralyzing fear gripping her heart. The knock came again, louder this time like a thunderous command. "Let me in," it demanded. As the air crackled with energy, Maria stood frozen, pushed to the edge of a decision that could change everything. What would she find if she opened the door? Would she face the warrior or something she could never understand? And what about her son? A fire ignited deep inside her, a protective spark between her and the mysterious figure in the shadows outside. She took a breath, steadying herself. Would she dare take that leap into the unknown? The moment hung there, weighted with an energy Maria could hardly comprehend. She brought her hand up to the door, a deep breath flooding her lungs as a wave of protective instinct surged through her. She could feel a pull, an undeniable connection beckoning her closer, yet the fear clawed at her, whispering dark warnings that chilled her to the bone. "Please." The voice pressed again, this time more desperate, almost broken. "I seek only what is owed." With a trembling hand, she grasped the knob. Thoughts of her son flickered to life, intensifying her urgency. "If this is a mistake," she whispered to herself, "I have to protect him." Each heartbeat reverberated with the primal fear of a mother, yet another heartbeat called her toward the truth, whatever it was. She turned the knob, her muscles stiff with tension, and the door creaked open, revealing the dark figure beneath the porch light. The shadow appeared taller than life, the outlines blending into the night. But as Maria squinted, she discerned the fine details. The warrior's face revealed a deep weariness, an ancient pain etched into his features. Time froze. His eyes, gleaming like obsidian, locked onto hers. There was power in their depths, a haunted sorrow that tugged at her heart. "I have traveled far," he said. "Your bloodline carries the weight of our history." Maria's chest tightened. "My bloodline? What do you mean?" He took a step forward, so close she could feel the chill radiating from him. "Your ancestors broke a promise, a sacred bond sealed with our people. Now, the cycle must be completed, or darkness will follow you, your son, all who bear the name." She staggered back, shaking her head as the weight of his words pressed against her skull. Was this man mad? Or was there a truth hidden in his warning? "I don't know what you're talking about." He stepped closer still, his shadow swallowing the light. "It is the land you reside upon that remembers. The blood-spilled cries out for justice. Your strength can restore what was lost or bring forth calamity." With each word, the tension inside her grew, like a vice gripping tighter around her heart. She wanted to close the door, to end this nightmare, but the warrior's presence felt like a tether, grounding her to something larger than herself. "What do you want from me?" "I ask for a single night," he said, his voice low but resonant. "For you to listen to the call of the past. We can bring peace, a bridge between the histories, but you must be willing to face it." 1,000 thoughts whirled in her mind. The legends, the warnings, her grandmother's tales of lost warriors. Understanding began to seep in. But at what cost? Every instinct screamed for her to retreat, to protect her son at all costs, yet the echoes of the past beckoned. An idea emerged, tentative but bold, the chance to change everything. "If I accept, what happens then?" His lips curled slightly, an ember of hope illuminating his expression. "You will not walk alone. Together, we shall mend the rift. But every truth comes with sacrifice. There are forces at play you cannot see, shadows that will not rest." Gritting her teeth, she felt the weight of that decision slide into her belly like lead. She glanced back into her humble home, feeling the warmth of her son's presence radiating from the other room. Would he understand? The path she was about to tread could alter everything. In that single breath of uncertainty, Maria took a step forward, crossing a line she could never uncross. "All right," she whispered, determination flooding her voice. "I'll do it. But if anything happens to my son," his gaze softened. "We begin the ritual at dawn. Prepare your heart, Maria." As he stepped back into the darkness, shadows wrapped around him. The night returned to its eerie quiet, the promise of an unseen reckoning looming just beyond the horizon. What waited for her at dawn? Would the darkness of her ancestors rise again, or was there a flicker of hope ignited in that decision? Maria felt the heaviness in her chest, an intuition that things were about to spiral far beyond what she could foresee. She turned back toward the house, determined yet trembling. She would protect her son and uncover the secrets that lay buried in their family history, no matter what it took. The clock ticked, sands of time falling swiftly, and the coming dawn would reveal it all. What would she discover when the night's secrets unveiled themselves? Dawn broke softly, the sun's rays spilling gold across the horizon, illuminating the edges of Maria's world like a fragile promise. She stood in the kitchen, heart pounding in her chest, nerves electric as she prepared for what lay ahead. Coffee brewed lazily, the rich aroma filling the air, but it did little to calm the tempest swelling inside her. Her son, Alex, still slept soundly, oblivious to the weight of her decisions. She could hear his soft breaths drifting from the bedroom, a rhythm that comforted her amid the chaos. What would she do if he woke and sensed the tension radiating from her? She poured herself a cup, hollow and turbulent, each sip a reminder of the stakes. As the clock ticked inexorably toward dawn, Maria felt the pull of destiny, a force greater than herself clawing at her spirit. The warrior's words echoed in her mind: shadow, sacrifice, justice. What could a single night hold? The first rays of sunlight broke through the heavy curtains, and with them came an uneasy realization. Today was not just another day, it was the day she would confront the haunting past her family had tried to bury. Her bloodline was a map of regrets and unfulfilled vows, and she was at the crossroads that it felt surreal as she moved about her house, grabbing a small bundle of sage that her grandmother had gifted her long ago. It felt heavy in her hand, a tether to a history she had always ignored. Could it help in the ritual? She didn't even know what the warrior would ask of her, or how any of this would unfold. The minutes crawled by, and with each tick of the clock, anxiety coiled tighter within her. When the knock finally came, it was sharp and decisive, cutting through her thoughts like a knife. She froze, the mug clattering slightly in her grasp. The moment had arrived. Taking a deep breath, she hurried to the door and swung it open. There he stood, tall and formidable, his silhouette framed by the morning light. The warrior's presence filled the threshold with an almost palpable energy, but now there was something different. His eyes, once fierce with urgency, bore an intensity that made Maria's heart leap and her stomach churn. "We have little time," he said, his voice low, almost resonant. "The bonds we must mend do not linger comfortably in daylight. They thrive in shadows." Shadows? She faltered, a chill gripping her spine. Was she ready for what that meant? Did she even know how to walk through darkness and emerge unscathed? "Your ancestors await," he urged, stepping closer, as if to guide her into a realm shrouded in mystery. "But you must be anchored by your love for your son. That is the key." The thought of leaving Alex alone, even if only for a moment, sent her heart racing. "What if I can't return?" she whispered, fear seeping into her voice. That he placed a hand on her shoulder, warm and steady. "You will return to him. The shadows may seem daunting, but they will reveal the truths you carry." Taking a shaky breath, she glanced back at the still sleeping figure of her child. There was no turning back, she knew that now. "Okay," Maria said, her voice firm despite the tremor within. "Let us begin." As they stepped into the dim light of the morning, a peculiar awareness spread through her, something ancient and powerful, like a spark igniting. Together, they wove a path into the heart of shadows that danced just out of reach. The air shimmered, vibrating with unseen energy, as if the very world was holding its breath, but with each step, doubts crept in, echoes of despair lurking, whispering of dangers that lay ahead. What sacrifices would be demanded? What consequences awaited? Maria knew she was on the brink of something monumental, a collision between her past and her son's future. Time itself felt suspended, waiting for her next move. The warrior turned to her, a grim promise etched in his eyes. "Brace yourself. The reckoning is near. What you uncover may change everything." As they plunged deeper into the unknown, Maria gripped her resolve tightly. She was not only a vessel for history but also the shield for her child. What lies ahead felt chilling, yet a part of her sensed that the darkness would lead her to the very things she needed to confront, and even as the veil of shadows thickened, whispers of hope flickered within her heart. What would she become in facing the truth? As the world began to shift around her, Maria realized that dawn would soon break, a new one that could either illuminate their path or plunge them into eternal night. As they crossed the threshold into the shadows, the air thickened around them. It felt alive, almost sentient, brushing against Maria's skin like a cool breath. The warrior walked with purpose, his stride unyielding, while Maria hurried to keep pace, her thoughts racing even faster than her feet. Trees loomed over them, their gnarled branches stretching like skeletal hands, casting eerie patterns on the ground. The world turned dim, muted colors swirling into a palette of grays. She shivered, not just from the chill but from the weight of the moment. This was no ordinary journey, it felt like walking into the unknown parts of her very being. "Stay close," the warrior instructed, his gaze fixed ahead. She nodded but felt a flicker of doubt. What had she really signed up for? Suddenly, a distant sound reverberated through the air, a low, haunting wail that seemed to echo from another time. Maria faltered, clutching the bundle of sage tightly, feeling its familiar texture grounding her. What was that? she whispered, each word trembling on her lips. It's the voices of your ancestors, he replied, his tone grave. They call to you, longing to be heard. Remember, they hold the key to your family's past and your future. Fear churned in her stomach like a storm. What would it reveal? Would it lead to some horrifying truth she wasn't ready to face? They stopped in a clearing, and the warrior motioned for her to stand still. The air buzzed around them, charged with energy, vibrating with the weight of their purpose. This is where we begin, he said, eyes locked onto hers. You must summon them. Use the sage. Maria's hands shook as she opened the bundle, crumbling the dried leaves between her fingers. The scent of earth and smoke filled the clearing. She closed her eyes, whispering the prayers her grandmother had taught her, feeling the words resonate deep within her soul. As the smoke swirled upward, whispers began to materialize, tangled threads of memory and sorrow weaving through the air. Faces flickered around her, mere shadows illuminated by the ethereal glow that emitted from the encircling mist. Each face told a story of burden and love, families torn apart, sacrifices made in vain, a legacy she was just starting to comprehend. Why did you leave me? One voice called out, full of anguish. Maria's heart sank at the sorrow lacing the tone. This is not just about you, the warrior warned. This is about understanding their sacrifices and making peace for the future. Will you commit? Tears pricked at Maria's eyes, her voice catching as she replied, I will. I need to know. Suddenly, the shadows around them twisted, and the whispers turned into frantic murmurs. The atmosphere thickened, swirling with despair. Maria staggered back, panic rising as she caught glimpses of dark memories, people lost, promises broken, a family splintered. Hold on, Maria, the warrior shouted. You must not falter. This is when the truth comes to light. With a surge of will, she focused on the faces, on her own desperate need for resolution. I am here. I am ready to hear you. As the smoke thickened, all at once, visions began to flood through her mind, betrayal, love, and a strength she didn't know she inherited. Each moment gripped her like a vice, dragging her under and forcing her to face the raw hurt buried deep within her bloodline, but just as suddenly as it all began, a deafening silence fell over the clearing. The flickering shadows faded into darkness, leaving Maria's heart racing with uncertainty. She was left in a void, with only the vague outlines of what was. What happened? She gasped, breathless. The warrior's once stern countenance now reflected a dawning realization. We've stirred something powerful, something not pleased with its awakening. You're not just unraveling the past, you may have ignited a dangerous flame. Her pulse quickened as the weight of his words sunk in. What had she uncovered? And more importantly, what would it mean for her and Alex? The shadows began to swirl again, beckoning, taunting. The answers she sought seemed to slip further away, leaving her standing at the edge of a precipice. Maria felt the ground shift beneath her, an urgent pull toward the unknown. And as each heartbeat echoed in her ears, she knew she had only scratched the surface of a far deeper mystery. But now she also sensed an impending threat, lurking just beyond what she had dared to reveal. Brace yourself, Maria, the warrior warned, his expression grim. If we don't act quickly, you will not only uncover the truth, you'll also awaken ancient forces hell-bent on claiming what is theirs. The path she had chosen was fraught with danger, but it was too late to turn back. With the shadows now swirling ominously around them, Maria took a deep breath. It was time to confront whatever darkness awaited, what other secrets lay buried in her family's past, and at what cost would she uncover them. Maria's heart raced as fresh shadows danced wickedly around her. The air grew heavy with an ominous promise as her lungs tightened. What do we do now? Panic crept into her voice, and she gripped the sage tighter, as if it were a protective talisman. We must focus. Call upon them again, the warrior replied, his voice steady yet urgent. But be warned, some spirits are wrathful. Wrathful. The word crackled in the air like static. She closed her eyes again, this time feeling the terror rise like bile in her throat. Doubt wormed its way into her mind. What if her plea stirred something evil? But what choice did she have? She had opened this door, drawing in a shuddering breath. She began to chant once more, her voice wavering but growing steadier with each syllable. As the smoke curled and thickened, she fought to keep her trembling hands steady, the rhythm of her words gaining momentum. Ancestors, hear me, I ask for your guidance. Just as the last prayer slipped from her lips, something in the air shifted, a palpable charge that made her skin prickle and stand on end. The shadows began to coalesce, forming opaque figures that loomed closer. Whispers surged around her, churning like a tempest. They were angry, confused, lost. You dare awaken us? A voice thundered, deep and enraged, echoing in the depths of her mind. Maria opened her eyes wide, staring into the dimness. I want to understand. I need to know why. She shouted, her voice cutting through the swirling din. The figures surged, their faces now stark against the mist. They spoke in a cacophony of regrets, pleas, and dreams unfulfilled. A particular voice rose above the rest, sharp like a blade. You claim to want to know. You bear the weight of our darkness. Speak our names, and bear the truth that follows. Her stomach dropped. Names? What names? She grasped for memories like they were floating leaves on a stream. I know of Elena. And Jorge. They were family. A roar erupted from the shadows, louder than thunder. Do not speak their names lightly. Your bloodline is built on sacrifice. But also betrayal. The warrior moved closer to her, his presence anchoring Maria's spiraling fear. Stay strong. Do not let them overpower you. Why did we never speak of this? She cried out, feeling a strange mix of rage and sorrow. What were you protecting me from? Protecting you? The voices echoed, turning into shrieks that clawed at her resolve. We protected you from ourselves. The ground trembled beneath her, a violent shudder that made her nearly lose her footing. The shadows writhed with a live fury, slipping closer until she could feel their chill in her bones. The warrior raised his sword, pointing it toward the tumultuous mass. We demand clarity. Why do you come forth with animosity? He bellowed, his voice ringing like a bell amidst chaos. For a moment, silence enveloped them. Then, as if the very air itself sighed, a single figure stepped forward, a woman cloaked in shadows, her eyes blazing with grief and rage. You think you have the right to question us? We lost everything to protect you. There's a price to be paid, young one. Maria's breath hitched. The figure's gaze bore into her, a vortex of anguish and anger. Do you wish to uncover the truth? You will lose more than you can imagine. Do I have a choice? Maria felt the weight of her family's past pressing down on her, threatening to crush her beneath its burden. What do I need to do? A sinister grin crept across the woman's face. Accept what has been hidden. Channel our pain. Make it yours. The realization hit Maria with chilling clarity. It was not merely knowledge she sought. It was acceptance. The clearing began to whirl again, spiraling into darkness. Maria fought against the tide, feeling as if she were being pulled underwater. No. I want answers. Will you let me know the truth? But the shadows pressed in closer, whispering promises and threats in a language she barely understood. The warrior stood firm beside her, but even he faltered, his steely composure cracking. Maria! He shouted above the din. You must choose now. Truth or oblivion. Her mind spun. What price was she willing to pay for a glimpse into the past? As shadows swept around them, Maria felt time freeze for a moment. The weight of her ancestors' history was upon her, and every heartbeat echoed in the hollowed chambers of her heart. Would uncovering the truth bring understanding or unleash a darkness that could consume her entirely? As the darkness threatened to envelop her, she made a choice, but the price of her revelation was still unknown. As the shadows lunged forward, what awaited her on the other side of this revelation? Would she have the strength to bear the burden of knowledge? The darkness crashed around Maria like waves against a shaky pier. She stood her ground, heart hammering as she felt a surge of energy ripple through her. It was the spirits, they were alive with anguish, their voices hammering at the walls of her mind. A whirlwind of emotions engulfed her: fear, sorrow, rage, and somehow, beneath it all, an undeniable pulse of hope. As the shadows surged forward, Maria closed her eyes and focused on the traces of warmth within her. It was the love of her family, the flickering spirits who brought both comfort and grief. "I will accept you," she declared, her voice steadier now, breaking through the tumult. "I will carry your burden if it means bringing light to your darkness." The figure cloaked in shadows recoiled as if struck. "You fool! Do you know the weight of what you say?" "Yes." The words burst forth like a river breaking its banks. "I choose to know." The ground beneath them shook, as if the universe shifted to accommodate her resolve. Suddenly, the air writhed with blinding light that cut through the shadows. Maria felt the presence of ancestors, enveloping her like a protective cloak, urging her onward. "Show me!" she cried, and at that moment, colors exploded around her. The visions were chaotic fragments of lives entwined in sorrow and sacrifice. She saw a woman in a village, eyes wide with despair, holding a child wrapped in a fading blanket. Elena, the name slipped through her lips, entwined with longing. Pain sliced through her as she witnessed the depth of sacrifice and loss embodying her bloodline. The scene shifted violently, revealing a man in chains, eyes burning with defiance. "Jorge," she gasped. He fought against the binds, a powerful storm caught in the eye of oppression. "Where are you?" she shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. The shadows shifted, mocking laughter echoing around her. "You think you can save them? You're trapped by the same blood that binds them. Not if I can uncover the truth." She shrieked, with a sickening fear unfurling in her gut. "They deserve to be remembered. I will not let their stories vanish." With each heartbeat, shadows inched closer, their grasp squeezing tighter around her. They threatened to swallow her whole. But just as despair threatened to break her spirit, a flicker of light pierced the darkness, growing stronger with every breath she took. "Accept the pain, Maria," the warrior urged, a lifeline in the storm. "Transform anguish into strength. They cannot haunt you if you embrace them." With renewed fervor, Maria held on to her family's memories. She focused on their stories, their strength, their love, their unyielding spirits. "I acknowledge your struggle. I honor your fight," she cried. The shadows began to wail, rising in pitch as if responding to her words. Their angry forms twisted grotesquely, but Maria stood firm. "I will remember. I will remember for all of us." A deafening roar erupted, causing her spirit to tremble, but Maria felt an echo of strength within her. In that moment, the shadows began to dissolve, broken by the purity of her plea. And then, as quickly as it had started, the world fell silent. Maria stood alone in the clearing, the air around her still and charged with an electric pulse. But something was different. She felt lighter, as if the chains of the past had been severed. Questions began swirling in her mind: had she truly freed her ancestors, or had she awakened a far greater darkness? Then came a whisper, soft yet chilling, curling through the stillness. "Then the cycle begins anew." As the ground trembled once more, a new kind of fear gripped her. What cycle? And what awaited her at its end? Uncertainty mingled with a chilling anticipation, hinting that the true battle had only just begun. The ground quaked violently, almost as if Maria's very will had summoned something ancient and powerful in response to her proclamation. Shadows coiled like snakes, retreating for a moment but not vanquished, swirling around her in a dance of menace. The silence that followed was filled with a heavy tension, a breath held in the throat of the universe. She took a step back, the grass beneath her feet whispering in agreement with her pounding heart. What cycle? What new horror had she unwittingly released? The shadows seemed to pulse, an answer to her unspoken fear, and she could feel their icy breath tickle her spine. "Show yourself," she commanded, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her bravado. But there was something else brewing. An unyielding determination sparkled deep within her, fed by the love of her ancestors and their stories that had surged through her moments ago. They had lived, fought, and sacrificed. They deserved more than to be entangled in this nightmare. In an instant, the air darkened again, thickening into a suffocating blanket. Then it happened. A figure emerged, half-formed from the shadows, a silhouette wearing the vestiges of warriors long past, dirt-streaked faces, angry eyes, and the weight of histories long gone. They swirled around a central figure, a leader, fierce and unrelenting. "Maria," he said, his voice a thunder that echoed through the clearing. "You have awakened us." She staggered back as recognition ignited within her. This was Jorge, her ancestor. His eyes burned with a fierce intensity, more living flame than mere spirit. "You've stirred the cycle. It knows you now, and it will not rest until it gets what it desires." "What does it want?" Maria breathed, her throat tightening. Shadows twisted closer, a clamor of whispers assaulting her ears, each voice blending with the next, fury mixed with desperation, a cacophony of unfinished lives and unresolved stories. "It desires to feed," Jorge spoke, his voice steady despite the chaos. "It craves to claim the living as it did before. To snuff out your light just as it did to us long ago." Rage ignited inside Maria, filling her chest like a furnace. "I refuse to let that happen. I'm here to break the cycle, not to become part of it." Her voice rang out, defiant and strong, each word imbued with the spirit of her ancestors like a battle cry. The shadows roared in anger, swirling violently, and she felt the echoes of their wrath resonate in her bones. Jorge stepped forward, his figure solidifying amidst the chaos, a beacon of hope among the swirling despair. "Only through remembrance can we fight. You must carry our stories, Maria. Let them live through you." But at that moment, the air thickened further, a cold dread curling itself around her heart. The shadows hesitated, then twisted violently, launching toward her with renewed fury. Maria could feel the weight of despair trying to crush her spirit, the memories of her family ricocheting in her mind. "Fight it!" Jorge shouted, extending a hand as if to bridge the gap between them. "You are the light against the dark. Remember us." The ground beneath her feet rippled, and her breath caught. The voices of her ancestors surged within her. "You are not alone. You will be our voice." But as she summoned their strength, something even darker stirred from the depths of the shadows. A presence ancient and vindictive, clawing its way toward her, threatening to drown out their cries. "Will you accept the consequences of your choices?" It roared in a guttural voice that sent chills down Maria's spine. "Will you stand against the tide of darkness?" The energy around her surged, igniting in her a burning question lingering in the air. What was she truly willing to sacrifice to fight back? The cycle was beginning anew. And now, Maria stood at a precipice, faced with the ultimate choice: embrace her heritage or risk losing everything. As tendrils of darkness crept ever closer, she took a shaky breath, heart racing. The battle had only just begun. Would her flame of hope be enough to challenge the relentless night? The shadows lunged, a wave of darkness crashing into Maria with brutal force. It wasn't just an assault, it felt like 1,000 hands, clawing at her heart, pulling her toward an abyss ringing with sorrow. A scream bubbled up in her throat, but she swallowed it down. Fear morphed into something sharper: defiance. "Not today!" She shouted, channeling the strength of her ancestors, the memories swirling with her like a cyclone of spirit and fire. Jorge's eyes flickered with pride, a small nod as the shadows recoiled, momentarily stunned. "Focus, Maria. Channel their stories." His voice pierced through the mounting chaos, thinning the oppressive darkness that clawed at her edges. With every beat of her heart, she felt their past surge through her: the laughter of her family, the songs sung on long summer nights, the sacrifices made in silence. She was their vessel, their hope against despair. "Your stories will not be forgotten," Maria yelled, her voice echoing out into the night, strong and unwavering. She anchored herself, planting her feet into the quaking earth, envisioning the light they brought into her life. "You lived. You fought. You mattered. But the shadows twisted again, enraged with her defiance. They screamed, a cacophony of despair that threatened to drown her righteous fire. You cannot silence the cycle. They shrieked, their voices merging into a dreadful harmony that made her bones ache. You belong to us as we belong to them. No. Maria's voice rang out, cutting through their screeches like a knife. I am not yours to claim. In that moment, the shadows flickered, churning in confusion. Perhaps they felt her conviction. Perhaps they saw the spark of rebellion igniting within her. Either way, it was enough to throw them off balance, to create a crack in their formidable darkness. Jorge stepped closer, his spirit flickering like a flame fighting against the wind. Connect with us, Maria. We are your armor. Let our stories fuel your courage. As she drew in a breath, memories flowed through her veins, igniting a fire that tingled at her fingertips. With every remembrance, she felt strength building. The warmth radiated out, creating a shield against the incoming storm. It was as if the very fabric of her family's legacy seeped into her essence, binding her into a multitude of figures, warriors, mothers, fathers, siblings, all the love and pain they had experienced, now coursing within her. Together, she shouted, raising her arms in a gesture of unity, refusing to let the shadows encroach any further. Together, we rise. And then it happened. A boundless surge of energy exploded from her, rippling through the air around her. The shadows gasped, recoiling in fear. Maria felt untamed and powerful, standing firm in the opposition, a firestorm against the ever-encroaching night, but just as she thought the tide had turned, a new shadow coalesced, darker, more menacing than the rest. It loomed larger, a specter of dread pulsing with its own malicious intent. Its voice sliced through the chaos, low and sinister. You think you can battle the inevitable? I am the cycle, your past, your suffering, your end. Maria's heart thundered. A deep, debilitating fear clutched at her throat. She could feel the oppressive weight of destiny threatening to crush her beneath its heel. Would she stand strong, or would this immense darkness extinguish the flame she had just ignited? Time to choose. Maria came the echoing whisper, wrapping around her mind like a vine, squeezing tighter, demanding her answer. The shadows stirred, waiting in anticipatory silence, as fear mingled with desperation. Uncharted territories lay beyond this moment, but all she felt was the palpable pressure of a menacing choice closing in. What would she say to the darkness? How could she ever hope to break free? As she stood gasping, caught in the swirling chaos, one thought pierced her. An ember of resolve sparked within her mind, daring to leap into the fire. This was not the end, but just the beginning. Was she willing to face whatever it took to end this cycle forever? The shadows paused, their anticipation heavy in the air. Maria's heartbeat thundered in her ears, an echo of her ancestors' drums, urging her to purge the dread. This is not how it ends. She screamed, pushing back against the suffocating darkness. She could feel the waves of despair pressing down, but she stood tall, remembering her family's strength, their untold stories that filled her with sorrow and rage. Do you think you have the power? The monstrous shadow taunted, its voice wrapping around her like a shroud. I am the weight of the past. I am the pain that defines you. In that chilling moment, something clicked inside her. No. You don't define me. My stories do. Her fury ignited, pulling her up, fueling a rebellion she felt deep in her bones. The air sizzled with energy as she hurled her voice into the abyss. You will not take me. I choose who I am. The shadow recoiled, and a flicker of fear danced through its inky form. But the darkness was relentless, lunging forward with a roar, its presence a wave of despair trying to drown her spirit. Maria dug her heels into the unforgiving ground, summoning memories of every person who had stood strong before her. Jorge! She shouted, searching for him through the chaos. His silhouette blurred in the tumult, but she felt his resolve. Fight with me. He stepped forward, fierce and determined. Together, Maria. We are more than our pain. As he reached for her, a bright light emanated from their joined hands, pushing back the shadows with tangible force. Every ounce of strength from their ancestors surged through them, swirling like a tempest of emotions. The ground beneath trembled, and the air crackled. Suddenly, another voice cut through the uproar, a sultry whisper, guiding, almost seductive. Why try to resist, Maria? Embrace what was meant to be. Let the cycle find you. Panic surged within her. No. You're just a thief, hiding behind the fear. She shouted, her voice ringing resolutely. I refuse to let you win. But doubt crept in like shadows at dusk. What if she was too late? What if the cycle was already too deep-rooted, too insidious? In that moment of wavering, she saw glimmers of her past, her mother, laughing as they braided flowers in her hair, the sun-kissed laughter of family gatherings, and the warmth of her father's embrace. It was a jolt of electricity, each memory a shield against despair. You will not take this from me. Maria shouted, her voice crackling with defiance. The surge of warmth grew, she felt the barrier of shadows beginning to slip away. Jorge stood beside her, glowing with the same vibrancy, an unwavering sentinel against the darkness. They were rising together, but then, the monstrous shadow reformed, growing angrier than before. You think light can exist without darkness, Maria? The cycle never dies, it only transforms. Just then, a bright flare erupted from her chest, spilling light that splintered the shadows into ribbons of smoke. Waves of energy washed over her, buoying her spirit higher. The room brightened, a raw, white light piercing through the dark. Yet as the light spread, a sudden chill tore through the air. From the center of the storm, the darkness twisted and morphed, revealing countless faces, each one a desperate plea, yearning for release. They were the lost souls caught in the cycle, reverberating through time. What are you? You are nothing without your pain. The shadow howled, its voice layered with countless whispers, a haunting harmony that sent shivers down Maria's spine. I can break this cycle. She roared, but uncertainty gnawed at the edges of her mind. What was she truly facing? And then she caught a glimpse of something shadier, darker than the rest, a pair of haunting eyes staring back at her from the depths of the collapsing shadows. The connection felt familiar, almost intimate. This is far from over, Maria, it whispered, sending icy tendrils of fear washing over her. There are truths hidden that even you are not prepared for. Maria felt a shiver rip through her, bringing with it a daunting realization. She had unleashed something far more powerful than she anticipated, a truth long forgotten, but would she be ready to face it? The moment hung suspended in air, and determination coiled tightly around her heart. No more lying down. No more giving in to darkness. But she had to ask herself, how far would she go to uncover the truth? As shadows hung heavy, only the caustic chill of fear remained, lingering like a storm cloud poised to strike. What lay ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, but one thing thrummed within her: she was not done fighting yet. The shadows continued to pulse and writhe, a storm of anguish and fury swirling around Maria as she stood her ground. Her heart raced not just with fear, but with a fierce resilience, fueled by the love for her son. I will break this cycle. She shouted, her voice slicing through the thick darkness, echoing with the power of generations behind her. You will not claim me or my bloodline. Suddenly, the dark figure shifted, its face contorting into something almost human. Foolish girl, it sneered, a chilling sound like broken glass. Your defiance will be your undoing. We are intertwined, and we will always be. The shadows recoiled momentarily, visibly shaken by her resolve. Together, we rise. Maria called to Jorge, their spirits connecting, brightening the air around them. With every heartbeat, she felt the warmth of ancestral strength surge through her. The spirits lent her their power, their pain transforming into a beacon of light that carved a path through the darkness. But the malevolent shadow lurked, gathering itself anew, aware of her burgeoning spirit. You think your light will save you? It hissed, taunting her. You are but a flicker in the vastness of night. No. She spat back, tears brimming in her eyes at the thought of her son, Alex. I will not let my son live under the weight of your darkness. My family's sacrifices won't be in vain. The air around her swirled with turbulent energy, the shadows vacillating between rage and uncertainty. An energy unlike anything she'd ever felt coursed through her veins, a storm of love and longing, tragedy and triumph. She was standing not just for herself but for all who had suffered, all who had whispered her name through the ages. You are not the end, you are the beginning of everything that is good. She declared, her voice rising to a pitch that vibrated through the very bones of the earth. Feel the pain of the past. The shadow howled, lunging forward, a torrent of darkness spiraling toward her. The ground shook violently as despair clawed at her feet, but she would not be deterred. Summoning all the light within her, she shouted, I embrace it, and I will carry your memories forward. I recognize your stories, your sacrifices. I will not run from you. The shadows hesitated, and for the first time, Maria could see whispers of the lost souls trapped within them, their faces stricken with agony but somehow grateful. Remember us, they seemed to plead, their unison softening the chaos around her. At that moment, Maria grasped tightly to her spirit, extending it outward. You will not be forgotten. With her voice imbued with every ounce of strength she could muster, she recited their names: Elena, Jorge, all the family members, the countless stories that were theirs to tell. Light exploded from her, a blinding radiance that surged forward in a wave, crashing into the swirling darkness. As the light pierced through, the howls of the shadows became screams, reverberating with the weight of long-neglected truths finally unveiled. I am here, and I am your voice. She proclaimed, feeling as if she were becoming one with the energy streaming from her core. The light wrapped around each of the shadows, binding them with compassion rather than fear. Slowly, the oppressive darkness began to dissolve. Maria felt the weight of loss lift, replaced with a profound understanding. In their release, whispers of gratitude filled the air. The very shadows that had threatened to consume her transformed, morphing into radiant figures, flickering with warmth and life. You have done what none could, Jorge's voice emerged from the brilliance surrounding her. You have woven the fabric of our stories back together. You have made peace. The figures drew closer, and Maria could feel their love enveloping her, lifting her spirit. Joy uncurled in her chest like a blossoming flower, mixing with hues of sorrow and redemption. Each spirit wrapped around her, embracing her as she exhaled the last remnants of fear. As dawn broke fully overhead, the remnants of darkness retreated, unraveling into fragile tendrils of mist. The clearing lit up in impossible vibrance, the first rays of sun casting golden hues that danced upon the earth. Maria looked around at the clearing, the weight of history still lingering in the air but no longer heavy or oppressive. I will honor your stories, she whispered. Thank you for allowing me to remember. She turned, heart soaring, as she envisioned Alex waking, carefree and fulfilling the legacy of love that now coursed through her. Determined, she stepped back through the threshold, leaving shadows behind. Once inside her house, Maria let out a soft sigh. The warmth of home embraced her, and she could hear his gentle breathing from the bedroom. As she walked to Alex, a sense of exhilaration surged in her heart. She had faced darkness and emerged stronger, illuminated by love. Mom. His sleepy voice interrupted her thoughts. She swept him into her arms tightly. I'm here, my love. I'll always be here. As the sun shone through the window, casting soft light across their faces, Maria felt at the beginning of a new cycle built on remembrance and hope, unconditional love that would stretch across generations. She smiled down at Alex, feeling the warmth of her ancestors within her, a promise to tell their stories and honor every sacrifice. The shadows had been vanquished, their hold broken. While the echoes of the past would always be present, they would fuel a future filled with light. And she would never forget the strength born from that fateful night, the night she embraced her heritage, her family, and the unyielding bond of a mother's love that would change everything. Remember their stories, share them, share the love. Now, don't just savor this conclusion, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss exclusive stories coming up. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, it really helps out. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. The power of the stories lives through you.